Greetings, everyone. This is Phil Amerson with an episode of Because. Just because I want to share some reflections on life and ministry, on faith. I want to tell a story. It comes because I've been thinking a lot about the events in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, and the ICE raids there. And as I've mentioned earlier, it reminded me of other experiences, Kent State in 1970 and Jackson State, where African American students were murdered. But it took me closer to home as well. Evansville, Indiana, the year is about 1988 or 89. Um, Unfortunately, in the neighborhood where we lived, which was on the Near East Side, there had been some attacks on women. And who came into the community but the Ku Klux Klan? And they were going to help organize the good white women to protect them from a rapist. No one knew that the rapist was not white himself, or if there even was a rapist, it was just reported and the newspaper were there. And I still remember we were a part of a faith group called Patchwork Ministries. Patchwork still exists. And we sat down one evening after worship and after the meal and said, "What should we do? The Klan is organizing, and they're going to hold a meeting at the Baptist church down the street. And how should we respond?" And a lot of us had a lot of fancy education. We came up with all kinds of things we were going to do, protest or whatever. And one woman who lived in the neighborhood, who, let's just say, some of us knew, we didn't think her elevator went all the way to the top floor. Her name was Stella. She lived with about 10 cats in her house. Um, but Stella, listening to all of this, finally leaned back in her chair and said, the best thing we could do is just go to that church where the Klan's going to be and just help people think about it more clearly and pray with them and be quiet." And to our amazement, we realized Stella had the best idea of any of us. And so the evening came at the Baptist church where the Klan was going to host its meetings, and about 20 of us showed up. We were at the doors, but we didn't protest in a typical way. What we did was, we touched people as they came in and spoke to them in a soft voice. We were inside the sanctuary and spread out and sat by people. We asked early on that a hymn be sung, which sort of threw the Klan people off, but it was Stella's idea. And, we calmed that whole situation down and found a place where people didn't come to be excited by the Klan, who tried. I ended up being a friend of one of the Klan members. I've talked about this in other, recordings, but, a guy named Will Campbell worked with the Klan. He lived down outside of Nashville. I called Will, and he said to me, when I told him our situation, he said, "Well, what are their names?" And as I've said before, I didn't understand what Will was asking me. I thought he was asking me, "Who are the members of our group, or who are the people who are being attacked?" But no, 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 no. Will wanted to know, what are the names of the Klan members? And that's when I got to know them. One in particular who began to come to our worship services on Sunday evening. I don't know that I would have ever gotten there without Will's advice and without Stella's good information. And to make a long story short, about a year after I first met the young man who was a part of the Klan, he had continued to come to worship. And one evening, as we took up the offering, and it wasn't just money, people would give flowers and poetry and bread that they had baked. This young man came and dropped something in the offering plate. And quickly after the service, I took the offering back in an office and looked to see what it was. There were maybe $2.30 in the offering, but there was also something that this young man had dropped in, and it was his revolver, along with his Klan membership card. Sometimes the message we share is one that is built around building a relationship, and touching people gently and quietly, and praying with them, and, oh, yes, singing some songs of hope. God bless you just because we have the opportunity to live differently as people of faith.